This is the holy teaching of Vimalakirti, one of the best sutras I've ever read. One of the things he says, this body is so impermanent, fragile, unworthy of confidence, and feeble. It is so insubstantial, perishable, short-lived, painful, filled with diseases, and subject to changes. Thus, my friends, as this body is only a vessel of many sicknesses, wise men do not rely on it. This body is like a ball of foam, unable to bear any pressure. It is like a water bubble, not remaining very long. It is like a mirage born from the appetites of the passions. It is like the trunk of the plantain tree having no core. Alas, this body is like a machine, a nexus of bones and tendons. It is like a magical illusion consisting of falsifications. It is like a dream, being an unreal vision. It is like a reflection, being the image of former actions. It is like an echo, being dependent on conditioning. It is like a cloud, being characterized by turbulence and disillusion. It is like a flash of lightning, being unstable and decaying every moment. The body is ownerless, being the product of a variety of conditions. And then he goes on to say, you just got to bear with me here. It takes a little patience, but this is worth it because it is the holy teaching of Vimalakirti. This is one of those texts that was life-altering for me. Therefore, you should be revulsed by such a body. You should despair of it and should arouse your admiration for the body of the Tathagata, which is the body of the Buddha. Friends, the body of a Tathagata is the body of Dharma born of gnosis. The body of a Tathagata is born of the stores of merit and wisdom. It is born of morality, of meditation, of wisdom, of the liberations, and of the knowledge and vision of liberation. It is born of love, compassion, joy, and impartiality. It is born of charity, discipline, and self-control. It is born of the path of 10 virtues. It is born of patience and gentleness. It is born of the roots of virtue planted by solid efforts. It is born of the concentrations, the liberations, the meditations, and the enlightenment. It is born of mental quiescence and the transcendental analysis. It is born of the 10 powers, the 4 fearlessnesses, and the 18 special qualities. It is born of all the transcendences. All of those. It is born from sciences and super knowledges. It is born of the abandonment of all evil qualities and of the collection of all good qualities. It is born of truth. It is born of reality. It is born of conscious awareness. Friends, the body of a Tathagata is born of innumerable good works. Towards such a body, you should turn your aspirations. And in order to eliminate the sicknesses of the passions of all living beings, you should conceive the spirit of unexcelled, perfect enlightenment. That's Buddhist teaching in a nutshell, kind of, you know. But you can study it more because there's more, but that's kind of the, the summarized version given by our master Vimalakirti, who is one of the greats. And the next one, of course, is Maitreya, who is another of the greats, who says, the creation, preservation, and dissolution of the universe are all divine play. In the universe, the self, who is the self of all beings, appears as many. Before creation and in dissolution, the world exists as one absolute existence, which is God. Then there is neither the seer nor the seen, neither subject nor object. There exists only consciousness itself. Let's talk about a tachyon field here. In that consciousness, which is the absolute God, is the power which divides itself into the seer and the seen, the cause and the effect. This power is called Maya, also known as, illusion, which is everything we create to keep us from seeing that which is real. He also says suchness is said to be similar to the substance of gold, because this essence is immutable, perfectly pure, and most notable. Hold the thoughts, know the thoughts, and you realize the thoughts have slowed, showing breaks and gaps. Be the witness to them, and you shall be meditating. Isn't that the best instruction you've ever heard on meditation? And of course, Maitreya was considered, the Buddha to come.
The future
the
Buddha.
the second coming of the Buddha almost. He says, hold the thoughts, know the thoughts, and you realize the thoughts have slowed, showing breaks and gaps. Be the witness to them, and you shall be meditating. So our next master is Milarepa, another great Tibetan master, and he actually was a sorcerer before his transformation, and his transformation was just as dramatic as his life before, because he did a lot of evil things before his transformation. But once he went through conversion, he went whole hog. No halfway for Milarepa here.
No
And so
messing
that's why
around.
he's considered like one of the greatest saints of Tibet, is because of this story of his. And so from the life and hymns of Milarepa, he says, all phenomena existing and apparent are ever transient, changing, and unstable. But more especially the worldly life hath no reality, no permanent gain in it. And so instead of doing work that's profitless, the truth divine I'll seek.
I like this through line of all the masters, it seems, in all these different studies and religions and
Starting to see
philosophy.
it, aren't you?
Yeah,
How they really are. It's what they always say, which is that there seems to be these divisions between religions or cultures or whatever, but when you actually read the writings of the mystics and the ancient sacred texts, you see that there's much more that's similar than is different. And he said, my religion is to live and die without regret. He says, if you realize the emptiness of all things, compassion will raise within your heart. And then the next master was the Chan school of meditation, which is, the Chan Buddhism is a major Chinese sect attributed to Bodhidharma. And Bodhidharma is a familiar name to those who study Buddhism. It emphasizes attaining Buddhahood. And so you focus on that through the enlightenment of your own mind, which ironically, Bodhidharma spread to Japan, and that was where Zen originated from the teachings of Bodhidharma. And so this is from Bodhidharma. Followers of the way do not acknowledge this dreamlike illusory world. For sooner or later, death will come. Just what is it that you are seeking in this world that you think will give you emancipation? Go out into the world and seeking only the barest minimum of food, make do with it. Spend your time in the shabbiest garments and go to visit a good teacher. Do not heedlessly seek after pleasure. Time is precious and things change with each moment. In their grosser aspects, they are subject to the four elements, earth, water, fire, and wind. In their more detailed aspects, they are subject to the incessant operation and oppression of the four states, birth, existence, change, and death. Followers of the way come to know the states of the four kinds of non-form and keep yourselves from being swayed by environment. Someone asked, what are the states of the four kinds of non-form? The master said, with a single instant of doubt in your mind, the element earth comes and impedes you. With a single instant of love in your mind, water comes and drowns you out. With a single instant of anger in your mind, fire comes and burns you. With a single instant of joy in your mind, wind comes and shakes you. If you understand this well, you will not be swayed by the things around you, and everywhere you will be able to take advantage of your environment. You may rise in the east and set in the west, rise in the south and set in the north, rise in the center and set on the borders, rise on the borders and set in the center. You may walk on water as if it were land and walk on land as if it were water. Why is this so? It is because you have realized that the four elements are nothing but a dream and an illusion. And then, of course, Hui Nang, founder of Zen Buddhism, the great Hui Nang. A lot of people are familiar with Zen, but they don't know that Hui Nang was the founder of Zen. And some of the great things that he said was, truth has nothing to do with words. Look within. When our mind works freely without any hindrance and is at liberty to come or to go, we attain samadhi or prajna or liberation. The master said, Fatha, when your mind practices, it reads the lotus. The master said, when your mind practices, it reads the lotus. You understand this, Brian?
Probably not.
This is, again, going to vibration and field. Because what's happening, what he's talking about is when the mind enters into practice, you know, the lotus blossom itself is a teaching. And when the mind is in a true state of practice, it is able to purely and simply read that teaching, which is embedded within the simple, very life of the lotus flower. So when your mind practices, it reads the lotus. It's unable to do so when we are in our illusory world. We don't even understand what that means. When your mind practices, you just naturally read the lotus.
And to me, it also, even though it may sound dissimilar, the Oracle of Delphi, just to know thyself,
Yeah.
because to know thyself really, truly, and we are inseparable from infinitude, then we have to know everything. So even though it may sound dissimilar, to me that just hooks right into that. Just like all these teachings, they kind of keep
They
going back
do.
to
They do all hook into each other. That's why the masters truly are one.
that. I heard the story of Huineng. Uh, there was two monks and they were like arguing over a flag. Like one was saying that it was the flag that was moving, and the other one said it was the wind that was moving the flag. And Huineng said, "It is your mind moving."
Oh, that is pure Huineng.
Oh, you know him.
I love Huineng.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so his great work is the record of Huineng, which is all of his stuff that was recorded and stuff, and it's great. So then the next thing that comes up is the Pure Land School. And the Pure Land School is all about the just want to look here. Gotta peek here, because I want to make sure I'm. Yeah, the Shinran School of Pure Land here. And so Pure Land Buddhism is, this other sect of Buddhism, which I wrote about in great detail in Christ of the Redemption, and it's in the Lord of the Redemption too. But it is this land where the masters reside, ironically. So, it's a perfect location to speak of at the feet of the masters, But the Pure Land School is unique in that there is a great deal of salvation by the recitation of the divine name attached to the Pure Land teachings, and a lot of salvation concepts that are similar to Christianity and also to Krishna consciousness in the Pure Land school of Buddhism.
We did a Pure Land meditation for the TCCHE.
We sure did.
So that's out there.
Yes, we did. And so, it says, you should understand that an upright mind is the pure land of the Bodhisattva. And so that ultimately is what the Pure Land is. It's an upright mind. When the Bodhisattva attains Buddhahood, then beings who are free of flattery will be born in this country. A deeply searching mind is the Pure Land of the Bodhisattva. When he attains Buddhahood, beings who are endowed with blessings will be born in this country. A mind that aspires to Bodhi or enlightenment is the Pure Land of the Bodhisattva. When he attains to Buddhahood, beings dedicated to the great vehicle will be born in this country. And so when I spoke about it in the previous classes and stuff, and also in our previous films, the Pure Land is where the masters are all residing, and they all communicate with one another. I hope you edit that out.
There's a chance. What are you, a human or something?
Jeez.
What is that?
Man. But, the Pure Land is where the masters reside, and they actually congregate and communicate with one another, comparing notes as to how they serve in the various realms that they are called to serve, many of them mortal realms like the earthly realm. So you'll see the masters sitting under trees in meditation, walking alongside one another in the grassy fields, floating in the skies, in the clouds, just swooping along the surface of the earth. But it's a place of pure peace with believe it was 2 suns and 4 moons, but it could have been 4 suns and 2 moons, but I'm confused right now, but it was one or the other. but it had more of those bodies. And it's just a beautiful place of great peace. And that's why we did those meditations. So refer you back to, if you're interested, trying those meditations to the Pure Land in the Stairway from Earth to Heaven. There's a shorter version, and then you can try the longer version so you can work your way into it. But the Pure Land School is it's literally the upright mind is the land of the Pure Land. And that's what Pure Land Buddhism is. And in the mystical spheres, the Pure Land manifests as the land of the masters. And that becomes kind of an important thing to understand about that, because it's it's the masters from all traditions. It's not just the Pure Land Buddhists that are there. It's everybody, from everywhere. So, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then, the next master path that is represented is Tibetan Buddhism. And some of the quotations that I've include one from A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by Shantideva, which is one of the primary texts that bodhisattvas use. I should flee far away from childish people. When they are encountered, though, I should behave well merely out of courtesy, but not become greatly familiar. This is the age-old tradition of monasticism worldwide, which is be courteous, but also we detach from worldly things in order to seek higher things. By reflecting upon the evils of life and the round of successive existences, mayest thou be incited to seek emancipation. This is from the Supreme Path, which is a Tibetan Buddhist text. Attach thyself to a religious preceptor endowed with spiritual power and complete knowledge. Seek friends who have beliefs and habits like thine own, and in whom thou canst place thy trust. By quitting one's own country and dwelling in foreign lands, one should acquire practical knowledge of non-attachment. And by reflecting upon the irrevocable nature of the results which inevitably arise from actions, mayest thou be incited to avoid impiety and evil. And so obviously one of the things with Tibetan Buddhism is the line of the Dalai Lamas. And so I can't pass through, Tibetan Buddhism without talking a little bit about the Dalai Lamas. And, there were 14. We have 14 so far. Tenzin Gyatso is the 14th Dalai Lama. And so I've got a few things that he himself has said, and it comes from a great deal of life experience. The goal is not to be better than the other man, but your previous self. And it is under the greatest adversity that there exists the greatest potential for doing good, both for oneself and others. And that, he reminds me a lot of, another Buddhist monk, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk, Thich Nhat Hanh, in that both the Dalai Lama and the Thich Nhat Hanh have both undergone a lot of personal suffering. Thich Nhat Hanh went through the Vietnam War and witnessed a lot of things, whereas the Dalai Lama was expelled from Tibet. And so they both speak from a lot of actual practice and experience when they speak of how to overcome the fetters of our earthly existence. One thing that I think is really great that the Dalai Lama says here that's helpful for all of us is people take different roads seeking fulfillment and happiness. Just because they're not on your road doesn't mean they've gotten lost. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. Be kind whenever possible. It is always possible. Sometimes one creates a dynamic impression by saying something, and sometimes one creates as significant an impression by remaining silent. And so then we're moving into now Tantric Buddhism. And I'm going to use quite a few quotes here just from Osho, also known as Sri Rajneesh, who had a few incarnations in his lifetime. And so from his lifetime in that life as Osho. Tantra is a complete science of self-realization based on the cumulative wisdom of centuries of exploration into the meaning of life and consciousness. Tantra is about truly loving and embracing all of life, and through this love, remembering our essence, the divine. Tantra is a life path. How we make love is how we create the life we lead, and vice versa. Lovers have known sometimes what saints have not known. The body can become a vehicle to that which is beyond the body, and sex energy can become a spiritual force. And Tantra is primarily about uniting love, spirituality, and sexuality with awareness. And so I think he explains that the best, what I could find. You know, Tantra is a pretty in-depth, system of study. So hard to summarize, but so we took a little travel through the old Tantric Buddhism there.
When we go back to the origins of yoga, there was 3 yogas at the beginning. And it was Kundalini, it was Laya Yoga, which is sound yoga, and there was Tantra. And so Tantra, there's actually 3 types of Tantra. There's the white Tantra, which is like seeking, higher vibration or highest self. The red Tantra is the one that engages with the cosmic orbit and sex. And then there's also black Tantra too, which is going more into the darker.
Yeah.
So Tantric Buddhism it's not just about using sexual energy and love to transmute into higher realms. There's also branches of study.
Yeah, there is, and it's also about using sexuality to understand spirituality. So the understanding of the sexual relationship, the sexual union, in the spiritual context. And so there's a lot of aspects to that. It's not a one-sided thing. So yeah, it is, if you're interested in understanding that more, you'd have to really study more of it, because it's not simple. It's not, ironically, here's another quote, which kind of explains it a little further. It says, the word Tantra means techniques, the method, the path. Tantra is a set of powerful transformative tools that can be used to bring new meaning and joy to every aspect of our daily lives. It is not concerned with the why of things. It is concerned with how, not with what is truth, but how the truth can be attained. Tantra is an experience. Only a daringness to experiment is enough. Courage to experiment is enough. So it's a very different approach. Osho did put out this book that was put out by Barnes & Noble years ago that I thought was really an excellent compendium on Buddhism. I know he's a very controversial character, aware of that, but this particular compendium was very well done, and it had four sections, and one of the sections was on Tantric Buddhism. And, you know, if you're interested in understanding what Tantric Buddhism is, I think he explained it very, very well in that section in the book. The other sections were also very well done, and one was on Zen, and the others were the different forms of Buddhism that you can study.
His book seemed to be very organized. And so I kind of like that, because I like to look at the table of contents and see how a book is set up, and that's just the way I look at things. And so the way he does things is it's kind of interesting, the way he puts it out there.
We're going into Zen Buddhism, and so, you know, so from the Denkaraku Sink Ragarata, simply give yourself over completely for the sake of your enlightenment-seeking eye. Give up your life for the sake of the teaching. How could you possibly arouse your will to realize enlightenment in the vain cause of fame and gain? Just call to mind your own original intention to realize enlightenment and reflect upon whether this is what you are now concerned with or not. And, you know, there are, I'd just like to share just some basic Zen sayings that are considered you know, pretty typical Zen sayings, but a lot of people may not realize they're Zen. The temptation to give up the strongest is just before victory. Don't speak if it doesn't improve on silence. A strong man overcomes an obstacle. A wise man goes the whole way. Don't be afraid to go slowly. Be afraid of stopping. A hut full of laughter is richer than a palace full of sadness. Even the happiness of a fool is a stupid kind of happiness. Hold on.
Hold on there.
Okay, can we edit that out, what I just said?
Hold the phone.
Just edit that one out, because I don't know what the heck that was. Okay. Always look on the bright side of things. If you can't comprehend this, polish that which has become dull until it begins to shine.
Dogon Zenji once said, if you want to travel the way of the Buddha and Zen masters, then expect nothing, seek nothing, and grasp nothing.
Oh, I like that. Say it again. Say that one again.
If you want to travel the way of
you need to tell people.
Dogon Zenji, 1200 to 1252.
Dogon Zenji. Dogon Zenji.
Dogon
Master
Zenji.
Dogen. He's
Master
like one of the greatest saint masters of the Zen path. Master Dogen.
Yeah.
Go ahead, say that, because that really wraps up Zen for us, doesn't it?
If you want to travel the way of the Buddha and Zen masters, then expect nothing, seek nothing, and grasp nothing.
Love it. And you know, ironically, Zen Master Dogen is the next master. So you really just wonkled over anything I could say that he said.
Well, you know, I'm been known to wonkle.
I wonkle, you know, wonkling's cool. But here's no, that's not gonna, no, that one's not gonna overturn what you had like the best, coolest Master Dogen quote right there. I'm so glad you had it, because I don't think I have it here. Oh, but here's another one that's just a Zen quote before we hit Dogen. A good teacher opens the door for you, but you must enter the room by yourself. So important in, you know, in spiritual counseling, very important. We open the door, but you have to do the work. Don't be afraid that you do not know something. Be afraid of not learning about it. Oh, and this is a good one. Someone who points out your flaws to you is not necessarily your enemy. Someone who speaks of your virtues is not necessarily your friend. Here's another one from Zen Master Dogen. Because mountains are high and broad, the way of riding the clouds is always reached in the mountains. The inconceivable power of soaring in the wind comes freely from the mountains. Oh, here's a good one from Dogen. When you find your place where you are, practice occurs, actualizing the fundamental point. So important. Gotta love Dogen. You know, Dogen is just one of he's kind of like the great saint of Zen Buddhism, you know. So some great stuff. You know, the Shobo Genzo was based on is the writings of Zen Master Dogen. And I did
The Zodo.
yeah, I did the
monks.
one books I did on the 52 Soto Zen ancestors. That was the Den Karaku. But you know, there was a Jiu Master Dennett, was it? It was a Buddhist master who really turned me on to Master Dogen. And so Moon in a Dewdrop is all of Master Dogen's poetry, his Zen poetry, and the Shobo Genzo is all of his teachings.
Oh, cool.
It's amazing, yes. So then we have Confucius and Mencius. So, you know, Mencius was Confucius's greatest disciple. So let's start with Confucius. The master said, a man can enlarge his way, but there is no way that can enlarge a man. Everything has beauty, but not everyone sees it. What the superior man seeks is in himself. What the small man seeks is in others. And Mencius, who was his greatest disciple, there's also, you know, lots of, collections of his writings. He wrote almost as much as Confucius did, ironically, in terms of what's available to us, not, you know, not the actual court documents, which probably Confucius wrote more of those, but not those. But one thing he said that I like a lot is friendship is one mind in two bodies.
I like that. He also spoke of sprouts of virtue, and there was like 4.
Mm-hmm.
Benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wisdom.
Excellent.
Innate predispositions.
Those are excellent predispositions for the spiritual path. And he also said, sincerity is the way of heaven, which is absolutely the truth. And here we enter into Christianity and, of course, our Lord Jesus Christ.
Oh, one more thing before
Sure.
we go from Confucianism.
Sure.
You know what the golden rule is
Oh,
of
how could I?
Confucianism?
Important. Thank you. What is it?
Do not do unto others.
What
What am I going to say? Anyone? What you don't want done to yourself.
Excellent, excellent point there. So that was
Golden rule.
Confucius. Awesome. It's always good to put those back where they came from so we know, you know. So Jesus Christ, it's hard to pull out, you know, anything because there's so much, but I picked out a couple things. Love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you, In that way, you will be acting as true children of your Father in heaven, for he gives his sunlight to both the evil and the good, and he sends rain on the just and the unjust alike. And of course, the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are they which do hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are ye when men shall revile you and persecute, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake. Rejoice and be exceedingly glad, for great is your reward in heaven, for so persecuted they the prophets which were before you. And I found a little quote that said, may my life be loyal and true, that in death I may find only beatitude. And I guess, most of those who are watching probably know a lot about Jesus Christ. We know about the virgin birth. We know about the crucifixion, the death, the resurrection on the third day, the ascension after 40 days, and all of these things. Is there anything else you want to cover before we?
Well, in regards to, if we talk about the mysteries of the redemption, or we talk about your travels out of body and with spiritual warfare, with Jesus as a master, what would you say that maybe, is different from what's in the Bible? Not different, but just in addition to, from your experiences and how you see him as a master. And even in your own experience, that you knew that when you were in trouble in the lower realms, you could call upon Jesus and nobody could touch you.
Well, yeah, it is interesting that in the out-of-body travel realm, you find out very quickly that when you're in trouble or you need help from the demonic, you call out to Christ. Sometimes you call out to Saint Michael, but it's Christ you call out for help from. What you also learn is that Christ is the head of the royal family of God. The royal family of God being all these masters we're talking about, the prophets, saints, mystics, sages, and ascetics from throughout the world and throughout history and every religion and culture and tribe. And these are, he heads that because he is a different station as Messiah, whereas the rest are prophets, saints, mystics, sages, and ascetics. So it's a different station that he holds. He is above and higher than those positions. He is what he said he was, who he said he was, and that is different than the other prophets. And when you travel into the mystical spheres, you learn very quickly, unless you're going to stay kind of earthbound, if you're going to travel and progress and things like this, you find out very quickly that God matters, Jesus Christ matters. These are inexorable truths of the world beyond. They're not little debatable things like they are in the physical world. They just are what they are. Truth is truth. How some of the masters have said that. And so you either kind of, get in line with that, or you don't really progress any further. there is really no greater holiness than when you stand before Jesus Christ. You know, sometimes it is so holy that you are literally thrust to your knees or down to your face, because you're in the presence of such holiness. That's what it is to be at the feet of the master, you know.